Welcome to Metropole Television. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage, and in case you're just joining us, this is Business I Am. I am at Kiage Simba. You can get to Twitter's hashtag Business I Am. We're already asking you those questions online in terms of the way the economy is shaping. And at 2021, as we get to the general elections, which is just a couple of months away, we've already seen a couple of shifts in the government, and we do expect that those realignments are going to continue. But for us, we step back and ask ourselves, how is the market shaping towards that particular period? All right, this morning again, we want to introduce you to a player in the Kenyan economy, especially when it comes to business, that you really have to know and understand how the impacts of climate change could make many parts of Africa uninhabitable. This is despite the progress towards the shared goal of addressing climate change in East Africa. A larger problem seems to be looming over 15 years since the commercial oil was discovered in Uganda. Total Energies and China National Oil Company announced they had reached a final investment decision, that is ECOP, contrary to the implication of ECOP being given the green light. That's part of the issues that you also have to wake up to this morning. But also on the side now, there's a long way to go for the project to be realized, as partners are yet to reach that particular area for them to close, which refers to the execution and delivery of financing and other agreements related to the project. But then the question is, why is climate change in Africa and land so naturally rich still an issue to date? That is part of the questions that we're also asking you online. But this morning, I want us to take a step back and ask you the question, do you know about KNCCI, that is the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This morning, as a business, representation and trade support is critical when it comes to staying relevant and thriving in your line of business. Today, the body or institution responsible for that's the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, will be helping us understand its role and its support for trade in the country. And therefore, joining us in the morning in the studio, it is the chairman, that is the KNCCI Nairobi Region, Julius Opiyo. Mr. Opiyo, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Welcome to Metropole Television.
Yes.
That particular one, Kenya National, you see I'm also getting it wrong, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Yes.
Let's understand it. Who are you? For any other person want to know who's the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry?
Okay, the abbreviation is KNCCI.
KNCCI.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm the chairman of Nairobi chapter.
Yes.
So KNCCI is a business membership organization. It was registered in 1965. That is the national office. And it has operations across the country in all the chapters. After the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010, we actually devolved the functions from head office to all the 47 counties and chapters. So every chapter has now an operation. And for me, I represent now the Nairobi chapter.
Yes.
And Nairobi chapter Nairobi being the capital city of the country, it represents a very critical role in terms of developing our businesses and also representing the interest of our members.
Yes.
In terms of membership, our members cut across all sectors of the economy, from if you go into finance, banking, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing. We have all sorts of members in the business sectors. In terms of size, we also have from the micro level all the way to large corporates. So what they do, when you're talking about SMEs or MSMEs, talking about the big corporates, we have a proper and wide representation in that front. So in a nutshell, that's what we are all about. That's from a countrywide perspective. Now, when you go now internationally, nearly every country in the world has a chamber of commerce. And in this, so if you go to Uganda, there's a chamber of commerce. If you go to Tanzania, you'll find one, and across the countries in Africa. And also this extends to Europe and North America. And then we report into what we call the World Chamber Federation as KNCCI.
Yes.
Yeah, so all country chambers report into the World Chamber Federation.
Yes.
So actually we have an elaborate global structure and network cutting across countries and continents, And we're able now to connect our members to all these networks, especially if you're looking for international business connections. From a local perspective, we're able to get you more access to opportunities locally with our partners in the public and private sector.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Now, I like the way you say that this is the Nairobi chapter as well. Let's break it down from there. For somebody listening to for the very first time,
Yeah.
I mean, the first question is going to be, what comprises a chapter and what are the specific roles of this particular chapter and how many chapters are there in the country?
Okay. Currently, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have 47 counties.
Yes.
So every county has a chapter. So now, for example, like now Nairobi, we have a chapter. We have a board consisting of 17 board directors. And then under the directorship, we also have committees, sector committees, whereby we are able to specialize in specific areas and bring in our members who are active and address any interests in regards to business, any challenges that come up. And we also advocate for any with our government partners or public sector when it comes to matters pertaining to business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, I think from 1965, you will say that you're among the longest, I would say, serving institutions in the country. Because for somebody who's saying that we started in 1965 up to where we are right now, would you say that as time has gone by, then your roles have continued to evolve and adapt to the business needs of the Kenyan economy?
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you look at our role then and compared to today, it has actually evolved.
Yes.
So there are some key things that we do. For example, we provide to our members, we try and get them access to markets. That could be local or internationally.
Which is very important, isn't it?
Yes.
And I actually wanted us to mention that because of some of the questions that we got.
Yes.
That particular area for access to markets, will we come into that?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you also have access to finance.
Yes.
So we have partners, financial institutions that are actually funding the MSME sector.
Yes.
So depending on the programs that we are running with and depending on the kind of interest our members have when it comes to business,
yes,
we're able to link them to financial institutions. Mm-hmm. Then we also advocate and lobby with government.
Yes.
Sometimes you have issues pertaining to tax clearance at the port and that kind of thing. So when our members come to us, we engage our government partners, whether it's a county government or national government, and see how we can address these issues in an amicable manner so that it turns out to be a win-win situation.
Yes.
Another thing we're doing is also in capacity building. We build capacity for our members in specific areas. It could be in terms of training if they need it, tax awareness in terms of how are you able to comply
yes,
with the tax authorities and that kind of thing. So we work very closely in that regard. So and then we also have events and then networking sessions.
Yes.
So depending on the events, we have programs that focus on special groups like the youth, women in business, people with disabilities and that kind of thing. So yes, we look at these special needs and see what can come up with programs and address their concerns. And then, in a nutshell, we normally have events covering all sectors.
Yes.
Now, depending on the sector that you're looking at, it could be maybe tourism, it could be construction, it could be now mobility. That's an area we're looking at. We're able to bring in our members from a sector perspective and engage them and link them to opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, just before you even go on exactly that particular roles that majority of the business community has been asking about, now for somebody listening to you and saying, well, I'd like to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce, where do I begin? I mean, how do I access these chapters that is saying that are in these 47 counties? Where are you? How do I begin today?
I would encourage, if you're in business today,
yes,
I would really encourage you to join a business membership organization. Because when you join a business membership organization, like now KNCCI,
yes,
we are able to have a discussion with you, engage you, see what kind of opportunities you're looking for as a business.
Yes.
And then from there, we link you. So in terms of our membership structure, if you want to join as a corporate member, we have a category for that. We have medium, and then we have small, and also individuals. Mm-hmm. So depending on your area of interest and the way your business is structured,
yes,
you choose the category that you want to join.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Why would I, for example, want to join as a corporate?
Yeah. So for example, if you're a corporate entity,
yes,
and you have a, let's say, a countrywide footprint, or you're quite big in terms of size,
yes,
maybe in the financial sector or
yes,
telecommunications, then you join in as a corporate. Now we also have micro enterprises, mm-hmm, what we like calling and referring to the mamambogas. We also have that kind of membership for you. And what we're trying to do now with that sector, we're coming up with programs to see how we can formalize the informal sector. So if you're in Gikomba, Kawangware markets, toy market, you can also join the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry in groups,
yes.
and then we see how we can address your concerns,
yes.
Within your specific sector and environment.
Yes.
So whether you're large, or corporate, or a micro, it's always the KNCCI Nairobi chapter.
Yes. Fantastic. Now let's specifically address that. Should somebody want to walk into your offices today, especially in these 47 chapters across the country, do you have these particular locations where somebody can walk in and then start registering? And before I register, and I want to address that particular area as a smaller business, what do I need to do as a smaller business for you now to say, well, we do recognize you as a smaller business and under our umbrella?
First, what we're encouraging, especially for the micro enterprises, is
yes.
to formalize their structures.
Yes.
So we have situations whereby people conduct business in a stall, for example.
Yes.
They do a lot of transactions, maybe informally. But what we're doing now is to encourage them to formalize their setup. So go register your business.
Yes.
Get a KRA PIN.
I see.
If you're paying taxes, pay taxes and have a record of what you're paying.
Yes.
When we come with the proposals or programs to capacity build or provide financing through our institutions, institutional partners funding the micro sector,
yes.
you actually have a formal record of history that we can refer to.
Yes.
And now we also have institutions that are willing to fund micro enterprises. You're not using the traditional logbooks and title deeds.
Yes.
We're looking at the digital footprint that you have in terms
yes.
of your financial transactions.
Yes.
So if you have, let's say, a digital footprint that extends to 12 months through your let's say, like, for example, M-Pesa transactions, you're able to take that to a financial institution.
Yes.
And through that, you're able to access funding
yes.
for your business.
Yes.
And if you want to scale up, that becomes now an opportunity for you to scale up.
Yes.
So we have quite a number of programs running. So for the big companies also, they also have their challenges when it comes to business, when it comes to licensing, security, infrastructure. Those are for the big corporates. We also have programs for them, and we see how we can engage with government, especially national government and county government, and address their concerns within Nairobi chapter.
Yes.
Now, if you go to the other chapters outside Nairobi, nearly every chapter has a structure, similar structure like ours. It may not be as elaborate as Nairobi, but at least there's an office that you can actually walk into and address, and you meet the representatives in those chapters and they address your concerns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So direct one, see, when we're talking about that, this is one of our viewers was asking, can you task him to explain specifically, like once I register my business, I get the KRA PIN, do I need to then walk into your offices and say, I want to be a member?
Yes. Yes, actually, once you're formal, once you register,
yes,
and then you get your KRA PIN,
yes,
depending on the kind of business you've registered, it could be a sole proprietor, that is an individual.
Yes.
It could be a limited company. It could be a partnership. You come with those documents, and you're welcome to our offices and register as a member, depending on the category that is appropriate for your business and also sector. So yes, you can actually walk into our offices and do that.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Now, it's a very important area that you mentioned exactly when we're talking about smaller businesses, even corporate the businesses as well, that this extension to market, you've been in the business for a very long time, since 1965 up to now, but then you find people saying, well, market access is still a challenge for majority of smaller businesses, in the sense that we have smaller businesses in the country that are doing good business with the potential to become bigger, but then market access becomes a challenge. And I'm going to put you on the spot. I've hosted somebody here who said, well, that you can't blame the banks, because the banks will be willing to give somebody money who's doing good business. You got to blame the institutions like the Chamber of Commerce in the country for failing men to open these smaller businesses to this market, so the banks can see the need to give them money so they can do proper business. Would you take that blame, or would you say you've made strides since 1965?
I would say we've made strides, quite a lot of strides. As we speak today, this week we're having the Dubai Expo.
Yes.
So we have a big delegation in Dubai this week and next week.
Yes.
Both public and private sector promoting made in Kenya and trying to get markets for made in Kenya products. So we have a big representation there. And then, okay, for the last 2 years, there's been quite a little activities from an international perspective because of COVID and the impact of COVID. There was a restriction of movement,
yes.
But now markets are opening up. So from that regard, our members are actually getting access to markets. In the month of January, we had an event whereby we got our Chinese counterparts in Nairobi. We had an event, and they're also giving us access to markets into China. We want to export our tea, our coffee into the Chinese market,
yes.
and see how we can grow our exports in those sectors. And then, so from that angle, I would say, if you look at the direction we've taken in regards to sharing information, our members have actually benefited. Another example I'll give is avocado exports. We have, there's demand for macadamia nuts. But I can tell you one thing about when it comes to international markets. One challenge you find is that some of these markets have a lot of conditions which you have to meet. Okay, so for example, if you want to export to the EU market, they have rules and regulations that you have to meet when it comes to the, how green your production is,
yes.
how clean it is. Do you meet the requirements when it comes to the usage of non-pesticides and that kind of thing? So they have, and then packaging also. How do you pack your exports and present them in a way that is in line with the regulation and requirements in the export markets?
Yes.
So that's how now we build capacities for the micro enterprises. We've had situations whereby, like now women in business, we've given them access to markets in India through the head office, that is KNCCI head office. And they went to India, were able to showcase their products, and they got business.
Yes.
Came back, and now they're building their capacity in terms of producing curios, textiles, and leather products. So for that regard, I would say we've done quite well.
Yes.
And we're working closely with the public sector and government to see how we can encourage the exports of our products,
yes.
to the markets across the world. From a regional perspective, also, we are in touch with our counterparts in Uganda, Tanzania, and also the northern part of Africa. So there's a lot of intra-trade that is starting to build up within Africa that is
yes.
being driven by the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, not only Nairobi chapter, but our head office and chapters, and the chambers in other countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
But can I ask you about that as well? That's a direct one as well. The Africa Free Trade Continental Area,
yeah.
we do expect that opens an opportunity, a bigger opportunity as well for local businesses to expand within Africa. Were you excited when we finally ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Area? And what are you specifically doing? Because it stands as a very big opportunity for businesses, but then there's been talk that indeed when you look at the groundwork, that's where we are falling back, because right now it should be taking total effect, isn't it?
Yes. Actually, there's a lot of work that has gone. I mean, there's a lot of progress that has been made.
From your office specifically?
From the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes,
I can
yes.
give examples.
Yes.
We've had delegations through our head office, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, going to Dar es Salaam, Kampala. There's a delegation that went to DRC, to Egypt. Last year I went to Egypt,
yes.
Cairo, and we have activities that we are looking at through that same initiative and COMESA. We want a situation whereby Egyptians can come and set up here and export and our produce, whether they are fruits for pulp, that is currently ongoing.
Yes.
About 3-4 weeks ago, there was a food exhibition with our Egyptian counterparts in Nairobi. We're going to have more events, such events this year, and see how we can position Nairobi or Kenya to become the leader when it comes to exports and production of produce yes. in the region. So we're looking at East and Central Africa. And this role is being played and driven by the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry through our, as you are aware, we have a chamber president yes. Called Richard Ngatia.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, question as well, how close are you working with the government? Because we've seen, again, the government being pro-smaller businesses within the country. Yeah. Do you say that they're accepting of some of the initiatives that you're trying to push inside and outside the country?
Yes, actually yes. I would say the government has been quite supportive.
Yes.
What we're trying to do is create awareness. And then what we're also doing is we work, like, I'll give an example. We are working closely with KRA to see how we can get our members to pay, if our members pay tax, okay, using a digital platform.
Yes.
How do they get how does the government come in and provide the infrastructure for them so that their businesses can be enabled to grow? So we're trying to also show the micro enterprises the positive side of paying tax,
Yes.
and at the same time holding our government and national county government to account. If I have a stall in Gikomba and I'm paying for the stall, the levies, then also my road should be tarmacked. I should get piped water.
Yes.
So the county government also has to address the issues pertaining to water and sanitation. Last week on Friday, we visited actually Gikomba market.
Yes.
We went to see the stalls, the traders there. We walked inside Gikomba market. We saw for ourselves what kind of challenges they are facing with. And we're going to have more engagements and see how we can bring in the county government, and we work together with them and see how they can improve the infrastructure for the small traders. So from that point of view, I would say we have a good working relationship with the county government and the national government. Another area, like in Karioko, there's some areas we went to in Karioko where they don't have power. So the issue of three-phase connectivity came up. So, and we're trying to address that with Kenya Power. How do we ensure that this metalwork, we have what you call the garages, we have the guys who produce all these frames, whether it's door frames, burglar proofing and that kind of thing, they need a lot of power, and they need three-phase connectivity.
Yes.
But when you go to some areas, you find there's illegal power connections. So what has been happening is, if an area has illegal power connections, the whole area is just disconnected by power. But you have people who have invested in lathe machines that need three-phase.
Yes.
So we also trying to hold KPLC to account and tell them, you don't do business like that.
Yes.
Give them three-phase power and let them pay for it. We're asking them to come together in groups, and we see how we can get institutions to fund them and get the three-phase power connectivity. And
yes.
that will now give them an opportunity to produce more
yes.
of their produce and create more jobs for themselves and build and grow their business. They become more economically empowered.
Yes.
So from that angle, actually, we engage. That's how we engage government and lobby on behalf of our members.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another area that I wanted you to speak on this morning has been a critical area as well, where it's baffling that even when we're talking about 80% of the employment in the economy being on smaller businesses in the country, you would wonder how, even when it comes now to these smaller businesses looking for finance, they'd rather, and it's interesting to look at that data from the World Bank, they'd rather not go to a bank, they'd rather look for alternative sources of finance as opposed to kind of these banking institutions, where the government is actually pushing banks to actually bring down the interest rates for smaller businesses within the country. Opio, from what you've said in this morning, on that perspective, what do you think the disconnect is? Is it your end that has not really done enough within your members to tell them, well, you got to formalize your business and go to a bank, they'll give you that money on a cheaper than going to a Shylock somewhere or looking for alternative sources of finance? Because finance as well, and for a very long time, you can even go back to when you started, 1965, up to where we are right now. Ask any other person, what is a challenge for business in the country? Finance. But why, when 80% of employment in the country is running on smaller businesses? How are you addressing that as Chamber of Commerce?
That's quite an interesting question you've raised. And if you look at how banks have evolved,
yes.
when it comes to lending out money to micro enterprises, their model is more of a Western model, whereby you take in the past you used to take a logbook, car logbook, or you take a title deed.
Yes.
You go to the bank, and then based on the documentation you provide and the value of your logbook or car, then you get a loan. Now, for the first time, you're seeing a situation whereby a number of financial institutions are starting to accept the digital transactions. An example would be like M-Pesa transactions. So if you have a history of, let's say, your digital transactions over 1 year or 2 years, financial institutions are now starting to use that as a way to lend out money to a business entity. Now, what we've done is to encourage the micro enterprises to get registered. So if, let's say I'm running a small business, I have my own shop.
Yes.
And then I've been operating as, let's say, Julius Opio, but I've not registered the business. So we're telling them now, can you register your business? Get a KRA PIN, okay? And then, there's also this fear of KRA. So we're also bringing in KRA and tell them you have to come and talk in a friendly manner. The average business person will pay tax. If you go to Gikomba today, people work very, very hard. By 5 a.m., they're there working. Some of these places are 24-hour economies. Everyone is working hard.
Yes.
All they want is to be given an enabling environment where they can perform. See, so from that angle, so we're able now to get them first to register the businesses. Then now they're going to what we call trade associations.
Yes.
So they're going to groups. So we also encourage them, register your group. So let's say if you have a group of 100 people or 200 people, members, or even 1,000,
yes,
get them, register that association, come up with a structure. When you come to the Chamber of Commerce, we're able to come to, you come to us with the issues and challenges you're faced with. I've talked to you about power connectivity in Karioko.
Yes.
So we've had a group coming from there saying we don't have electricity. We've not been connected with electricity because we need a three-phase connectivity, but we've been having issues with Kenya Power and Lighting. So how do we address that? So we're able now to take these issues to an institution like Kenya Power and Lighting Company and tell them we have this group of members and these are the challenges they're faced with. So from that angle, we're able to build their capacity, address their issues, and at the same time, because of those issues being solved, they're able now to go to the bank or to an institution and get funding. Last year, we had a program running with the MasterCard Foundation where we were disbursing funds. We had COVID funds. And so long as you had a business, this was mainly for the micro enterprises, we were disbursing funds of around 30,000, between 30 and 33,000, which were interest-free funds to the business community, micro. So to a Mama Mboga, if you give a Mama Mboga 30,000 to boost their business, it is transformational. So we have members who benefited out of that. Then we also have big players who want $1 million, for example, to borrow. Okay, but now maybe they want to scale up and export to the neighboring countries.
Yes.
It could be Malawi, it could be Uganda, that kind of thing. So we're also able to link them to experts maybe in the financial institutions and banks, and they can guide them and show them how to prepare the documentation. It might take long, maybe 6 months, but they get everything right, and then they get the funding.
Yes. And
then we give them access to markets. So let's say if you're looking for a market in a neighboring country like, let's say Uganda or Eastern Central Africa, we also have our counterparts. And that way, that is how we're growing the businesses of our members.
Yes.
And that's why I would encourage everyone to, if you're running a business and you want to grow post-COVID, you have to come up with a strategy that can actually jumpstart your business.
Yes.
One of it is to join the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we will work together.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
In just 1 minute, because that's the only time that we have left. There are a lot of issues that I want us to look into.
Yeah.
We need another section as well. That's another area as well. When you look at Kenya, and I want you to take just 1 minute, the ease of doing business. People have spoken about it. And when you look at Kenya, the guys were saying, well, who's talking about the ease of doing business? When you go to Ethiopia, the ease of doing business in Ethiopia and Rwanda is actually better than the ease of doing business in the country. From your perspective, from where you sit this morning, because your Chamber of Commerce is actually tasked with making some of these issues easier for the business community, what would you say we haven't hacked yet? Okay,
I would say that there have been challenges, but we've made some strides.
Yes.
Okay, if you look at where we're coming from, let's say the last 5 years or 10 years, there have been some strides. Today, if you went, there's what we call, the county government is giving out a single business permit. So we're trying to see how to work with government. Actually, we also challenge government. We cannot be having so many permits, regulations. If you want to, let's say, export an item and there are too many regulations, then it becomes challenging to do business.
Yes.
If you're putting up, if in the construction sector, you need to get quite a number of licenses before you can break ground. So that we've actually challenged the government. Is there a way we can have a central portal, for example? If I'm in the construction sector, why should I submit documents to NCA, that is the National Construction Authority? I submit similar documents to NEMA, which is the NEMA Environmental Management Authority. Then there's a county government you'll submit to. Then probably some documents have to go to the Ministry of Lands or to the national government. So in an event we had, I think it was towards the end of last year, we're saying, can you create a portal like, let's say, the way you have Huduma, where everything is centralized in a digital format. Once you submit and put in all that info, the various government authorities and then county government authorities can access that information and actually confirm, yes, the information is there, it's accessible. So you give approvals. So we're also challenging the government. Now, when you talk about ease of doing business, it's not static, it's a continuous process. there's been improvement,
Yes.
but there's still a lot of room for
Improvement.
exactly.
Isn't it?
So from that angle, I would say yes, we're making strides, but we can do better.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Guess what? I've got a lot of entrepreneurs who would like to ask you some of these questions directly as well. I think
Yeah.
we had an array of questions. Guess what? Next time,
Yes.
next session we do, we'll have an in-house meeting, and then actually we can get to run that show together.
Okay.
Because some of those questions are quite specific as well. In fact, some of them are your members as well.
Yes.
I would like for us to have that session as well. This morning, you want to ask any question about KNCCI and exactly what its mandate is. We did have the chairman, the Nairobi chapter, really going through exactly who they are. And he's saying that indeed, if you're serious about business and you need to jumpstart your business, especially if you are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic as well, you need to be a member of KNCCI, because he's saying that is the easiest route to government and also making the ease of doing your business good for you as well. All right, at Metropole TV KE across all your social media platforms. I am at KNCCI, but we take a short break. But once we come back, there's that question now. If you have defaulted on your SACCO loan, you need to start thinking about getting it sorted out, because sooner rather than later, your SACCO will give out your name to the country's CRBs. I'm talking about the credit reference bureaus in the country. Let's talk about that SACCO Amendment Act once we come back, and also talk about Uchumi. What do you remember about them? It turns out their failure was just down to one accounting firm, Ernst & Young, as ISPAC, the watchdog, is telling us this morning.